Okay, it's 11 o'clock here, so we're going to get started. Welcome everybody to our June What's New and What's Next in Meetoo webinar. I'm Dermot from the Customer Success team, and here to take us through all the new features that we've got in this release is our Product Manager, Matt Kelly.
Hi everyone.
Okay, so if you haven't already got it, the Meetoo app is available on iOS and Android natively, or on any browser device at web.meetoo.com. And as I just said in our little warning a moment ago, if you've already got the native apps, please make sure that you've updated them. We updated those apps yesterday, I think it was, and so you just need to make sure you've got the most recent version so that you can enjoy the new features that Matt's going to be showing you today. But if you haven't got it, you can download it now, or indeed go to web.meetoo.com where you'll be able to use everything straight away. And our meeting ID for this session is 192651614, and it's really important that we get you all onto Meetoo today because although Matt's going to be showing you from the control side how all the new functionality works, we really want you to be able to see how participants will see all those new features as well. Now I can see that we've got quite a number of people joining us on the webinar and not quite so many on Meetoo, so please do use those instructions and actually get yourselves joined up to the session. Okay. Just to have a little look at today's agenda, we've got a lot of what's new, which is really exciting for us. This is quite a large release and one that we've certainly been very excited about for a while. So Matt's going to be taking you through these things for the most part of this session. We've got our very exciting PowerPoint add-in updates. So that's introducing the star rating and word cloud question types. We've got the minimizer poll feature. Matt actually previewed that in one of our previous sessions, but now that's a fully released feature. We've introduced a nice simple method of sharing the web app link from your control dashboard. We've got a few changes to the way that the word cloud and text questions work in the control dashboard, as well as this a new ability to actually download result images from your dashboard, and then a really exciting element which is our presentation view beta feature. And all of those Matt's going to be walking you through in a moment, and then that new stuff is going to take up quite a lot of the time. So we'll have a little bit about what's next, and then some Q&A at the end. So just again before I hand over to Matt, please get onto the Meetoo session, and our meeting ID is 192651614. It's on screen there, and we'll try and reiterate that as we go through, but the nature of this session is not going to be lots of PowerPoint slides. It's going to be Matt actually showing you in the background, so please do get connected to that. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Matt now.
Thanks, Dermot. So as Dermot says, a lot to go through here, so I'm going to jump straight in. So as part of this release, we're updating our PowerPoint add-in. I'm just going to bring PowerPoint onto the screen. Now, unlike the other updates that we're talking about here, which are now live, the new PowerPoint installer won't be available until next week. But I'll quickly show you now what we've got coming. So firstly, let me log in so we can, those of you who are familiar with PowerPoint, hopefully you can recognize where we're at the moment. We're on the Meetoo tab within PowerPoint. Now let me log in. We've discussed this briefly on some previous webinars as something that's coming soon, but we now have the ability to log into your account using Microsoft credentials. And we've got this here in PowerPoint. It's also available on the dashboards as well. Now I've got an Office 365 subscription, so I can use those credentials which are linked to my account to sign in. So I press sign in with Microsoft. Now I'm already signed in here because it's remembered me from before. So I'll sign in with my details. And here we are. It takes me through to the next step. So we've made some small changes to the joining a meeting process. So now when I join, rather than having to find my 9-digit ID, I get presented with a drop-down list here of my available meetings. So I can just select the one I want and join it straight away. Now I want the one at the top here, so what's new and what's next, and hit connect. And we can see there at the top, I'm connected and the meeting is started. So the two new additions, or two other new additions we've made in PowerPoint is to support our word cloud question and rating question types. So what I'm going to do is just quickly add one of those each in. Let's start with a rating question. Now I'm just going to paste the text in to make it slightly quicker. So I've put the text in there. Please rate the audio quality of the webinar. And that's generated the rating question. Now I'm also just going to add in a word cloud question. My favourite for ease of use is just what is your favourite animal? Hopefully people don't have to think too hard about that. Let's just delete that slide. So now we've added those two question types to PowerPoint. Let's put it into slideshow mode and run through them. So here we are on the first question. Now I will open up the poll. So feel free to go ahead and vote on that. Now, as we're in our first poll of the day, I'll just briefly touch upon another new addition, which you hopefully are seeing in your apps if you've updated them, and on the web client as well, is the minimize a poll feature. As Dermot said, this is something we discussed on the last webinar as something that's coming. So the minimize poll in the top right, there's a little drop down arrow that will allow you, whilst the poll is still open, to minimize that down to the bottom, and you can continue to interact with the Q&A board or surveys, other areas of the app. And you can always maximize that again at your leisure. So I can see we've had quite a few responses in here, so I'm gonna close that vote now. And we have the response of the poll appearing. And again, just on the minimize a poll feature, you can see you can still minimize and maximize that question in your poll. In your app. Now, if I move on to the word cloud question, I'll open that poll up. So just fire in answers to this question. What is your favourite animal? I generally like to do this one because it's quite straightforward and simple, doesn't require much thinking. People in the office here are probably tired of me using this question as my test question, but there we go. So while we're answering that, I can see we've had quite a few responses. I will just touch upon a couple of things here. Now, when I close the word cloud poll, we'll see it will take slightly longer to generate the result than a normal poll. That's just because the add-in's having to work a little bit harder to get the word cloud prepared, so don't worry. So let me close that poll now. So as I said, just a few seconds longer than normal. And here we have the result.
It looks like some emoji.
Yeah, someone's been creative with the emoji on there, I think, by the looks of it. Yep. There we see the word cloud appear. Now, if I just come out of that, just to show you what we've got here. So on the slide, I'll just move that around. This is just an image that's been implanted on the slide of the word cloud. Now, like with other things in our PowerPoint add-in, the default colors it uses are taken from your PowerPoint color palette. So if I just quickly go up to the design view here and just move along to customize colors. So this is just to show you where it's taking these colors from the word cloud from, and it's taking it from these first 5 accent colors. So this is our PowerPoint template, which has got these accent colors in there, and that's how it determines the colors for the word cloud.
So much in the same way that the bars will be populated with the color that's on your master template as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, that's right. And that covers it for PowerPoint. So we've had the 2 new question types we've brought in there, and then also the slight change to the login process. So I will now just take PowerPoint away, and I think next we will bring in the dashboard. So we've touched upon minimize a poll in the apps. So now let's just take a look at the dashboard. First small little change is something we've done to make your lives a little bit easier with regards to sharing your meeting ID and giving your polls a little test. So in the black status bar at the top here, where the meeting ID is, we have a little drop down menu. If I just press that, and it has the option to copy the direct link to the web app. This copies the link to your clipboard. If I just press that, the bottom of the screen, we'll just get a little confirmation. Let's copy that link to the clipboard. You can then paste that into an email or another document so you can share easily with your participants. And that will give them a link directly to the meeting in the web app, so they don't have to actually enter in the 9-digit code themselves. And then just quickly, the second option is to open the web app in a new tab. Now this will take you, I'll just press that. This will take you directly into the app, into the participant view in a new window. Now I'm going to use that for this demo. If I just, sort my screen out. So I'm just going to move that over to the side so we can keep up with it as we go through the demo. So this is handy if you just want to test your polls in an app quickly, or you just want to see things from the participant's perspective. Particularly useful if you're playing around with the customizing, the branding colors. It's a quick and easy way so you can see how those changes are made. So then the next thing I want to look at is just briefly touch upon the word cloud and text question changes. So previously, if I go to create a new poll, previously we just had the text poll, and when setting up the text poll question, we gave you the option to choose to display it as a word cloud or as a list. Well, now we've separated this out into two distinct question types. So we can see the word cloud there and the text there. We found that the word cloud is one of the main reasons people use this question type. We want to make it a little bit easier to find in the dashboard. And our other intention behind this is also so we can further enhance each of the two question types separately in slightly different ways to support some of the different use cases where you would use a word cloud or just a general free open text where you want to see the response as a full sentence list. So as you can already see, I've got a few questions here already created, and we'll get onto those polls a little bit later. Whilst we are here in the poll screen, I just want to go to one of our other additions. As you can see, the two polls I asked in the PowerPoint add-in are here with the results present in them. As usual, you can republish the result to the apps and the displays by pressing the push result button. But we now have the added ability to download a quick image result of your poll. So if I hit the drop-down menu here, we can see this is now where we have the clear results option, and also where we can download the result image from. So if I just press that, this will ask me where to save it, and I'll save it to my default downloads folder. I'll just save that, and if I just go to that folder and bring it up, there we go, is an image of that poll. I'll just get back to my dashboard. So the purpose for that is so you can then quickly share that image. You can either share it with your colleagues or incorporate it into any other documentation you may create after your session. It's the same for surveys as well. If I just go to a survey, this is one I prepared earlier with some results in, and we can see on here, again, each question within a survey has the download result image option, and that works in the same way. It will save it to your downloads folder. So we're really rattling through this. Tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast.
I'm sure they will. We've got the Q&A board. It seems to be going okay. Good stuff.
So now the next thing I want to talk about, I'm sure some of you have probably already noticed this as I've been demonstrating. Again, back on the status bar at the top here, we have our latest beta feature, which is our presentation view. Now, the presentation view is seen as our longer term replacement to what we call our audience display. You can see here our traditional audience display is still available for the time being whilst we continue to work on the presentation view. So you can use that if you still prefer to at the moment. We've had quite a lot of feedback and requests for a single screen solution to controlling and presenting your meetings and lectures, and the presentation view is our first step towards that. So it gives you the benefits of an audience display, which your participants in a meeting room or a classroom can focus on, with the addition of control functionality, so you as presenters don't need to have a separate screen where you're controlling your meeting from. So let's take a look. When I press on presentation view, takes us to an alternate view where straight away we can see the Q&A board, and in the top left of the screen there we have a logo for branding, and in the top right we have some joining instructions for the participants. Now if I move my mouse cursor here, we can see some controls appear in the display, and as we'll see, if I stop moving my mouse cursor, those controls disappear again, so it's based on your mouse cursor movement. Also, if you're on a tablet, those appear and disappear again if you touch the screen, just so that they're not constantly cluttering up your display if you don't want them there. I think one other thing probably just to mention here, using the presentation view in your browser, if you hit F11, or at least it is in Chrome and Firefox, that will take you into a full screen mode if you want to present without any borders of the actual browser itself.
It's a bit more production value, isn't it, really, I think, for a lot of people to be able to show that up on a big screen. Yeah.
That's right. I'm going to come out of that though, because I want to have the the web app on the side of my screen here as well. So firstly, let's just take a quick look at the Q&A. Now, this is an unmoderated meeting, so all messages appear on the display as soon as they're sent in. Excuse me. Now, if I see a message that I don't want to be there, or perhaps it's a question that's already been addressed and answered, I can click on the hide icon alongside it to disappear. Now let's do...
I sent in a meeting at the start, if you want to
let's go down to Dermot's very good morning one at the start, and I can just press that and it will hide it. Now, that doesn't actually completely delete the question, the message. Similar on the dashboard, it will just send it to the hidden queue, which you can still access from the dashboard and repopulate from there if you so wish. At the top of the display here in the controls, we have a toggle to sort by most liked and most recent. So I can just toggle that on to sort messages by most liked, and then obviously toggle it back again to show messages by the most recent. Now on to polling.
Which is very timely, actually, because Sylvia's just asked a question about presentation view. So
perfect.
It wasn't set up by the way. Sylvia is a genuine customer.
So yeah, here in the control bar at the top, we can see we have some previous and next buttons. So these buttons allow you to navigate between the polls. So if I press next, we can see over here there's a little preview of the title of the question that's queued up. Now, these are polls that we've already obviously created on our dashboard, so they're here ready. So as I cycle through, you can see that preview text change. And when we get to the question we want, we can open it. So I've gone back to the first one here, and now I'm going to press open poll. So again, we can see that poll is open. Now, the poll appears on the display obviously straight away, and importantly here, I suppose the thing to address is the Q&A board is still present. So on the left-hand side of the screen, we've still got the Q&A board. As you send in your votes, you can see that the display of the polling results is dynamic. so we get the live result of the poll whilst it's still open.
And I just wanted to just say something there for a second. Is obviously if you're using this on an iPad or another tablet device, you'll just be able to swipe up and down through the Q&A board as well if you wanted to. So you can see that at the moment we've got the scroller bar is there. But yes, if you were just operating on a touchscreen device, you could still scroll up and down through those messages. So it's completely interactive whilst the poll is open.
Yeah, and well, as Dermot said, I can still do the sorting whilst the poll is open, and I can still edit and hide these messages whilst the polling is also still open. When I'm satisfied that everybody's had a chance to vote, I can close the poll, so that will lock the result in place and dismiss it from not allow you to vote anymore from your devices. And then finally pressing done will clear the poll from the display and from participant devices and leave me to continue with the discussion or select the next poll. So I'm going to quickly run through a couple of polls here. So just to demonstrate the rating poll. So forgive me for this question if there are no football fans in the audience, or particularly nobody interested in England in the audience. The question being, rate the quality of England's first performance in the World Cup.
I think if you didn't watch the game, you can probably guess what that might be. So just throw a response in.
So I can see we've had plenty of votes there, so I will close that poll, and yeah, the result is, well, probably a true reflection, bit of a mixed bag. Now then, lastly, I will just press done again and move on to a word cloud question. So we've seen with multi-choice and rating questions, they display their results dynamically. For word cloud and text-based questions, this is something that we're still actually working on. So if I just open a word cloud poll, we can see when I open the poll, you've got the ability on your devices to answer, but the word cloud won't actually appear until I close that poll. So we have some responses coming in. I'll just leave that a little bit longer. Sorry.
Again, just while these are coming in, because obviously when it's a text-based question, it can sometimes take people a bit longer, even though Matt has chosen a very easy question. Just to pick up a question from Adam, because I think there's a fairly easy response to that. Would be good to have the option not to have the live updates on results while the poll is open. So I know that's something that we've talked about internally, Matt. So.
Absolutely. So that's how our PowerPoint add-in display works, and that is how our current audience display works as well. Now, this is one of the main reasons why we still currently keep that audience display whilst the presentation view is in a beta phase. Absolutely, Adam, that's something, and I'll touch upon it later, that we want to bring in to have the ability to choose between what we call real-time or dynamic results, or only show the result at the close of a poll.
Absolutely, and just to mention, we're calling it a beta. It is fully functional and everything. The beta in there is because it's still a work in progress. But yes, it's not as you'd say flaky or you should be worried about using it. It's absolutely fully functional.
So I'll close this poll now, and hopefully when that closes, just another quick note on the Q&A there. So having the Q&A still visible whilst polling is open sort of ties in nicely with the ability for the app users to minimize the poll on their devices, so they can continue sending in questions whilst a poll is open. So obviously previously I'm still displaying the result of this poll. Previously you'd have been locked in your apps and you wouldn't be able to participate in the Q&A discussion. So that's just another advantage there to the minimized poll. Now, the last thing I just want to discuss, if I just close that and go back to, let's just show the results of that old poll again, is the settings option. So the top here, we have a settings cog. If I just press this, here we just have a couple of basic settings to begin with. So we have the ability to brand the display with your own logo. I'm just going to select an image here that's in my folder, so we can define a new image where the logo goes, and we can also change the colours of the bars, the results that appear. Now this it's an automatic preview, so we can see that the display behind is previewing those changes. If I don't like them, I can just press cancel, but I'm going to hit save on these to keep those. Then again, just covering, Dermot touched upon it there. We've positioned this feature as a beta, and it's apart from the slight glitch we just had there with the word cloud, it's working as we generally intend for the time being. However, it is still a work in progress. There are more additions we want to do, such as the aforementioned ability to support dynamic results for all poll types, and the ability to toggle between dynamic results or only show the results on the completion of a poll. Whilst we're in a beta phase for this feature, we have a small feedback button at the bottom of the display here, which you can use to send in some of your feedback and comments about this feature, so we can continue to improve on it for our next update.
This is really key, so please do, particularly, it's not going to happen whilst you're using it in a real session, but when you are setting up and testing and having to play, please push everything through to us. It is really important for us to be able to take all these new features forward.
And just to note quickly on that, there is an option at the bottom there. If you don't want to be contacted about your feedback, please say so, but it would be really good if you obviously do agree to that, because if there is something interesting you mention, we would perhaps like to get in touch with you and discuss it further. Now, moving back to the dashboard, so we can see up here on the top, I can navigate back to my dashboard view. Takes us to the very last thing I just want to talk about. Now, we've already discussed the ability to download the individual result image from a poll and from survey questions. But if we go to our data tab, we can now see that here we have a summary when they load of all poll and survey results. So here are all my poll results at the top, and if I scroll down, here are some survey results I had from a survey I did earlier, just previewed in there. Now, we have sorry, this is where we would normally go to. Let me just refresh the page to download our Excel report, which is still here up here. Download the data report, which contains all your raw data. And then we have a button here to download the result images. And similar to what we did before, downloading the result images will save them, all of these images, into a zip file in a folder, so you can access them from there. Now, just looking at the clock, we are quite short on time, so let me just quickly touch upon a couple of the what's next bits. So, again, we've discussed the beta feature here, the presentation view. This is going to be one of the main things we're working on to improve. And as I said before, your feedback is integral, so please do try it out and get in touch if you have any suggestions. We're also going to be working on some improvements to the word cloud question, and we have some tweaks to the import-export feature on the horizon as well. One of the things that is kind of slowly bubbling along in the background are some broad changes to the dashboard itself to update and improve on the overall design and usability of the dashboard, and we can hopefully expect to start rolling some of that new UI out towards the end of this year. And then just the other thing that also rumbles on for the education people out there, we are also working away behind the scenes on LTI integration as well for Meetoo. So that's just a quick little touch on what's next. Now, Dermot, how are we getting on?
We've got quite a lot of Q&A questions coming in here, so if we just move on a second. So let's start to rattle through some of these. We've got quite...
Sorry, so just to jump in, I mean, we do allocate half an hour for this session. I mean, the demonstration bit is done now, so if you are desperate to get off somewhere, please do. But we will continue the Q&A for a short while.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. And also, just so you know, I've opened up a survey in the app now. So please, that's our feedback, our way of capturing your feedback. So please do complete that survey, particularly if you're jumping off right now. But if you are going to stay around for a bit of Q&A, then you can obviously fill that in afterwards. So let me just go through here. I'm going to just sort these by the most liked to see if we can get these questions sorted. So somebody's answered a question. So I think the recording question has been answered. Zav Lolo has asked, when plug-in for Mac OS?
So this is something particularly recently actually as well. We've had a few people comment on this. Now, our PowerPoint add-in at the moment only really works on Microsoft machines because of the technology it uses. One of the things we are potentially hoping, and we haven't started working towards yet, but with this new beta presentation view, is adapting that in the future to be something that can be embedded within PowerPoint. So it would then, and potentially other presentation systems like Google Slides or Prezi or something. Now that's, it's not coming particularly soon, but it's something that we're thinking about and working on to enhance our this presentation view so it can be embedded within PowerPoint, and then we'll obviously work cross-platform. So there's not much for us to say on that at the moment, but rest assured you're not the only person to request it, and it is something we do want to address in the future.
Absolutely. We've got two good questions from Natasha here. I'll ask them both together. First of all, are there any plans to be able to turn off the survey button if no surveys are being asked in a meeting, in the same way that when you turn off the messaging, I guess it actually disappears? And then, is it possible to hide the Q&A board when a poll is open? And I'm assuming that's in the presentation view.
Yeah, so I'll touch on that one quickly first. So if you actually have messaging disabled completely, then obviously it doesn't show up in that presentation view. If messaging is enabled, currently it always does show in that presentation view. But again, discussing the beta aspect of this, I think that is, it's definitely something that has already been mentioned and is under consideration for us to allow you to make the polling full screen if you so wish.
And if you wanted to do that right now, you would just use the current audience display and just select the none option when you're creating that, so it doesn't show the messages on that board, or indeed use the PowerPoint add-in.
Correct. And then just the other question was about the removing the surveys from the app if they're not being used at all. Again, good suggestion. I think we've had one or two other people request that as well, and that's certainly, it's been added to our kind of ideas board, and the more and more requests we get about that, which I think we are doing now, it's something we will look to address, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Another one from Natasha here. She's asking lots of questions, which is great here. Is there a vote count in presentation view? I can't see one. So good one. Yeah.
Again, not at present, there isn't. But yes, that is something we are certainly looking to include in our next update of that presentation view, is a vote counter, so you can see whilst the vote is open how many people have actually answered. Give you, the presenter, a bit more satisfaction and confidence that it is working, and to know roughly when to close the vote.
Absolutely. And again, can we change the colour of the background of the presentation view? It would be good if we could match the branding that is chosen in the dashboard for the meeting. Hopefully this is the case. Again, from Natasha, good question again.
Yeah, funnily enough, when we were working on this, that is something we did actually have as we were preparing this presentation view. Now, we had to take it out relatively last minute because we were just finding we were having a lot of issues with our colour theming of that presentation view. So we've just gone very basic to start with, but further theming options is something we are looking at to introduce. I think one of the issues we were having was people being able to change it too much, so that in theory you could have all the same colour and make things unreadable. So we want to try and do it, but do it in a sensible way that people can't trip themselves up by making content invisible.
this kind of goes back to one of the future forums that you did last year, where actually everybody was, really saying everything has to be simple. And I think we've had a comment come through here as well in terms of keeping everything simple. So that's why we have these incremental changes, so we don't throw loads of things at our users that then might confuse them and cause them to have a bad experience with Meetoo, because we don't want them to have that bad experience and then potentially not want to use it. Will we have the option to log in with Google at some point? I think this is referring to the Microsoft sign-in that you demonstrated, Matt.
Yeah, so absolutely. That is, again, something we've discussed. Now, our first stab at it was just bringing in the Microsoft side of things. I mean, we work with a lot of educational institutions that are, the majority of which at the moment are currently linked up to Microsoft. So that's why we just went with Microsoft first. But yeah, Google, the other kind of obvious big player in that field that we'd hope to bring in as well.
Good stuff. Do you happen to know when next week the PowerPoint add-ins update is going to be released? I assume somebody's got a session that they want to use some of these new features for, Matt.
Yeah,
is the pressure question.
It is a pressure question. We are we're currently testing it. We're in a rigorous phase of testing it to get it out as soon as possible. I think we've just encountered a couple of issues just over the last couple of days, which we're desperately trying to get fixed. The intention is early next week. Don't hold me to this, but I'm hoping around Tuesday, but it just depends on a couple of these little tweaks and fixes we are just trying to squeeze in.
Sure. Tracy, if you want to send an email to hello@meetoo.com, just mentioning that, what we'll do is we'll get in touch with you directly, and then we can have a good discussion about that, because obviously we'd love for you to use it as soon as possible. Amy's made a comment about above dog there are 2 orange boxes that are going to appear. I think that was a representation of some emojis that somebody sent in. So that's great. That's something we can absolutely have a look at. Oh, Matt's going to do it.
If I come down, so it was this question, I think, wasn't it? It was the animal question. So we can see that somebody's used some emojis and sent those in now. So that's supported in our kind of web-based displays. But not in the PowerPoint. So I think the PowerPoint was replacing those emojis with, I don't know what they were.
Like the code.
Yes.
Okay, fine. So, any plans to add free text questions to the PowerPoint add-in? This is a good question from Bob, actually.
Yeah. So we want to add free text questions into PowerPoint. Now, the difficulty we have around it is coming up with a good display option for that, because obviously I don't have one here, but if we were displaying questions on a web-based thing, we can have it so that it's they're in a list, it's scrollable, whereas on PowerPoint it doesn't quite work as easily as that, fitting it all onto one slide. So we are working on sort of ways that we could display that. Now, just a quick little sort of workaround to it at the moment. If you're not actually interested in the display of it and you're only interested in the capture of that text, you can, in PowerPoint, use the word cloud question type and disable showing the results, so that you can still obviously capture a free text thing, don't show the results, but then in the back end in your report you will still have those that content.
Excellent stuff. When will presentation view be available on full release? I think that'll be TBC, really, isn't it, Matt? As and when we add new things.
Yeah. So it's again, what we define as full release kind of depends a lot on what your feedback is. I mean, we've got a long list already of things that we know we want to introduce to this presentation view, many of which we've discussed, and I think particularly Natasha brought up quite a few of those. So we've got a long list that we're going to be working on over the summer. We are intending to push an update to it at least in September, if not earlier. Whether or not we deem that to lose its beta tag is TBC, but we will. Yeah, it's going to be an evolution.
Excellent stuff, thank you. And then Adrian, I think this is the last thing we've had in. How can I access this webinar later? So this will be going up on our YouTube channel. Sophie has just responded to you regarding, so everybody that registered is going to get an email to give them the link to the recording, and it will also be up on our YouTube channel for everybody to view under the What's New, What's Next section there. Okay, this is by far the longest one we've done. We don't usually overrun, but it's great because I think it's it really proves that people are engaged in all of this stuff that we're doing. So I'm really pleased that we've had lots of questions in there.
That was my word cloud that didn't quite work earlier. I again not quite sure why we were only getting one word earlier. I think it may have been something to do with I'd made the window too small because I had the extra bit on the side. So it was not allowing much space for the other words to appear, but certainly something for us to investigate.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much, Matt. Thank you to everyone. Please fill in the survey that's on the app at the moment. It's really, really important for us to get all of that information. And also just a quick look at some other webinars that we've got coming up. On Tuesday, in fact, we're running a really exciting webinar with a guest host, Emma Bridger, who's the founder and MD of People Lab. That's going to be about employee engagement and the rising use of tech. A reminder of our Jumpstarter that's every Tuesday. And then we will be having another What's New and What's Next in Meetoo in September when we've got some more updates to show. Also, just to let you all know, we will be sending everybody out a link to a Trustpilot after this session. Please leave us a Trustpilot review when you get that link from the team. It's really important to us that we keep rising up the Trustpilot rankings and we have some reviews there. And please put open and honest reviews. We're not looking for any glossy ones. Okay, well I think that about does it for today. Thanks very much again, and we hope to see you all on the next one.
Thanks everyone.